Why isn't that in the real movie?
That's pretty good.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our channel. If you're watching this, this is our commentary for our movie Video Carnage. As you can see, we have it set up on a TV, so it's probably going to be a little hard to see the actual screen. So if you'd like to sync this up with the real movie, you can just open up the real movie in another tab and listen to this one as you play along. But we just thought, what better way to do the commentary than start out with do it how it was meant to be seen.
Just got to point out how incredible it is watching
Look at this.
watching a TV on a TV.
Oh, it's trippy. Let's talk. Now we've had lots of behind the scenes materials released. We're gonna have some more. So we're gonna keep this mostly focused on like the creative decisions within the movie, not necessarily how we did it, but why we did it and the choices. We opened up with this Lord sequence. This was the hardest sequence to edit. Oh shoot! See, now I'm already getting to the behind the scenes. But I will say this was the one we shot this, and then reshot it because I wanted to actually board it. So this is probably the only sequence in the movie that was boarded, but it's still hard to edit. But I wanted to start off with like showing our daily life, or I guess this routine of my character, Mike. Oh yeah, I'm Jordan. I wrote and directed. I play Mike. Score.
I'm Ethan. I'm a cinematographer, and I also play Nathan Hobbs in the movie.
But you know that probably if
Yeah.
you're listening to this. Yes, so the idea behind this opening sequence was we wanted to draw you in with Mike's daily routine, but we also wanted to have a music going on here. Something that I think I told this to Chloe or someone. I can't remember who I was talking to after the movie came up, but I wanted to have this movie. I thought was a lot about what it's like to be a young person in America, like right now. And so I wanted a song that would kind of act as like an anthem, for lack of a better word, for young people. So it had to be a song that fit the vibe of the movie, everyone recognized, and everybody loved. And there was a couple of different options, but, I have yet to meet someone who doesn't like Lord, or specifically Royals.
Yeah.
I mean, have you met anyone who doesn't like?
Nah, this is the song.
Yeah, so, and everybody's got a memory associated with it. And there was a point in the script where there was maybe going to be a bit where May and I sing along to this in the car, but we ended up not shooting that, and I didn't even bring it up with anyone, I don't think.
No.
But that was an idea in the back of the head, and I was thought, if we were going to sing along and make it kind of like Tiny Dancer and Almost Famous, like at that kind of moment, Royals, I thought would have been a fitting choice, but works great in the opening sequence. Yeah. Oh, what were you going to say?
I was say this is a great time probably to get into some of the color.
Yes,
choice.
I was okay.
Perfect.
You talk about that.
Yeah, so in Video Carnage, obviously when you're watching it, a lot of the sequences are they stand out because of their color. We use a lot of gelled lights, and that's just a common thing throughout our work. And we usually, for our movies, will pick different reasons, but we have some things that kind of follow through. But for this movie in particular, we chose color to represent different characters. So for Mike's character, we use blue as his primary color. For May's character, Sam, we chose red. And then for Vincent, he's green.
Yes.
And green is, for most of our movies, green is the bad guy color, and it's also the bathroom color.
Yes.
Those are two very specific things. We love lighting bathrooms green, and green just looks good for bad guys. So.
And
yeah.
I think there was a point where Mike was almost going to be red, I think.
Yeah. We
played around.
It was like a last minute, I feel like, choice of like when we finally settled on blue.
Because Mike, the way I think it was going to be red. Mike was going to be red, but then I was like, you know what? I have a blue shirt. I have a blue car, blue jacket.
And May drives an orange car, which is great too.
Yeah. And blue is kind of like a calming, soothing color. Color. Red is, it's usually sex or violence is what it equals in movies. Or just a state of like, I don't know, like unease.
Yeah.
And that felt good for May's character, I think.
Yeah. This looks really good on VHS. Actually,
I know.
I'm gonna say.
The one bummer, well, I mean, I guess it's not a bummer, is we shot the movie's obviously 16:9, but this is a 4:3 TV, so the edges, and I think probably a little teeny bit of the bottom is cropped off.
Oh well.
But it's an interesting way to watch the movie.
No, it looks fine.
Yeah, because May is cut off on the side.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's Not So Amazing.
RC Films.
RC Films. If you listen to the beginning of this scene, there's audio from Not So Amazing. If you haven't seen it, check it out. That's a great movie.
Yeah.
But that movie's about a guy who wants to dress up as Spider-Man and become a vigilante. And what's funny about the scene the audio you hear at the beginning of this scene is it's Sam in Not So Amazing. The main character in Not So Amazing is also named Sam.
Mm-hmm.
He is saying, he's talking to his friend about being Spider-Man, and his friend, played by Gage, I can't remember his name, is like, no, that's a stupid idea, which I thought was very fitting for our main characters here.
Mm-hmm. You're just trying to be Nancy Drew.
Yeah, Nancy Drew.
Yeah.
And there's just I think there's some parallels there with like this the feeling of emptiness in life, which causes Sam to go out and be Spider-Man, and in ours it's go out to stop a murderer or serial killer. The pacing of this movie I wanted to be slower, and I think you really feel that at the beginning. This first half before Vincent's even introduced, really. I wanted it to be kind of meditative and slower. Now, it's obviously not super duper slow. Like, it's not like Tsai Ming Liang or Bellatar. Like, those guys are super slow, but, like, I wanted it to be slower because I wanted it to kind of be like, life has felt wonky for the last year with COVID and everything.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to replicate that to some extent here, where it's just these characters kind of drifting through life at like this molasses speed. And I mean, it's all Red. Red is kind of a hypnotic character. Mm-hmm. The music is a little bit more, that version of the theme is a lot more slower and kind of hypnotic as well. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of the idea behind the pacing of the movie so far. So a lot of this is just, we're doing life. Things are not too amazing or anything, just kind of trudging along.
Yeah.
But that's also why we started at the very beginning with that little glimpse of the video Carnage tapes. Because it's like, hey, don't forget, this is a murder kind of thriller horror thing. We're going to get there. It'll just take some time, which is the reason. Which I think is I kind of like it when movies do that. Like, I think you can play around with like the tone in the movie. Mm-hmm. So like if the first thing you see is a murder, but then the next 30 minutes is all just like boring work at an office, at some point there's going to be a murder, and it kind of helps that. Whereas if you just start it at an office, you come into it thinking it's a regular movie.
Yeah.
We have Caleb Robinson, his other cameo. Caleb wrote and directed Not So Amazing, and he plays Uncle Mike, or Uncle
Dave.
Dave, that's right. Where does Dave come from?
The name?
Yeah.
It's my uncle.
Yeah.
My Uncle Dave.
Yeah.
And he also mentions a Patty, who's my aunt.
Yeah.
Aunt Patty. So I try and, sneak family members into movies wherever I can.
Yeah.
So.
This looks fantastic on VHS.
Yeah, no, this works.
Nancy Drew, okay.
Yeah, let's talk.
Nancy Drew was not in the script whatsoever. When we shot the opening scene, we were like, Mike should be reading. I think Mike was sketching, actually, in the original, but I was like, I don't want to draw. I don't feel like it. He should be reading something. What should he be reading? Yeah. My girlfriend has tons of Nancy Drew books. She's a huge Nancy Drew fan of the books, of the video games, movies, audiobooks, all that stuff. And I was like, it's kind of funny because I end up going to solve a mystery. I should be reading Nancy Drew. And so I just picked Nancy Drew up, and I read it in the opening scene.
We thought that was going to be the only time it shows up.
Yes. And then it turned out I just kept bringing it up, so whenever I would need to do something in the movie, if I need, like, just relaxing or everything, I would have a Nancy Drew book, and I'd be reading the Nancy Drew book. And I don't think it was ever rewritten into the script.
Mm-mm.
I think what happened is through shooting the scenes with May was Nancy Drew just seemed like a easy kind of go-to for like a pop culture reference. And you don't really see it, but there is I had a Nancy Drew wallpaper on my phone.
And on your computer.
On my computer as well. And I think, honestly, it was through the dialogue scenes with May that it really kind of fleshed out the Nancy Drew character. Like, that presence in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Can you think of... Because I don't think we referenced Nancy Drew at another point in the movie. Outside of scenes with May.
No, it's just with May.
Okay. Which is kind of funny because I feel like she has such a big presence in the movie, but she's only mentioned a few times.
Yeah. But again, you just embody what she does, and so that's what makes it carry so much further.
Yeah. And I think, because I think she was referenced more, actually, but we took those references out because they were a little too jokey, a little too comedic, I thought.
Yeah. There's so many takes that are out of this movie.
Yeah.
This movie could easily be recut into a comedy because of all the outtakes we have.
Yeah. So, but that important moment with Sam when I'm gone and Sam is alone and they go to the window and then they see the Nancy Drew book. That moment was originally just they go to the window. The Nancy Drew book wasn't there. But because, we shot in roughly chronological order, we could kind of add things in and kind of thread them through the movie.
Yeah, that was something we just came up with that moment, too.
Yeah.
Like, we just really ran with it.
And Nancy, again, there was no plan for Nancy Drew references at all. It was just a fun little Easter egg that he was reading a Nancy Drew book, but then it turned out I just kept reading Nancy Drew and kept talking about it. So
it was the rest is history.
Yeah.
Taco Bell,
the best. I think we can hear Seventh, the RC Films movie Seventh in this scene, I believe.
That's a movie you guys should go watch if you're into VHS.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
RC Films just crushing it.
I know, yeah, they're great. The stuff with the Sam character as well, I mean, if you've seen our other behind the scenes, you kind of know that Sam in the original version of the movie had no arc, wasn't very interesting, if I'm completely honest. Then a week before we started shooting, we reshot it and...
Rewrote it.
Yeah. Reshot it, yeah. Rewrote it. And gave Sam their arc that you see in the movie like it is.
Completely different character.
Completely different. And a lot of that is reflected in the first half of the movie. So I thought it was really important to, prior to discovering the VHS tape, the movie is really about a friendship between Mike and Sam. Because I really wanted to set that up as like, it's just normal life. And Mike is like, my friend's kind of depressed. They're in bed all the time. They're looking for work but can't find any. So it's kind of... It was real. This first half of the movie is really about that. And focusing that Mike is out there doing the hustle, trying to get work, not having any success. Sam's in the same boat but is just kind of given up. And that's really what it's all about.
Your character is like just about to become the same as Sam, kind of. You're like on the same trajectory.
Yeah.
You're just earlier.
Well, I don't even know if that's true because I mean, even down to, I wanted the wardrobe to be like they're polar opposites. Like there's no reason I'm wearing a suit and tie. I have no need to do that. I wore that because Mike is like, let's go out there. Let's get this bread. Let's do this. Let's work. I'm dressing for success. Sam is t-shirts, jeans,
hoodie.
Not that that's not dressing for success. I mean, you can look great in that, but I just wanted I mean, everything about them is kind of opposites.
Casual versus put together.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's, I mean, again, I've said it before, but that's really what this first half of the movie is really setting up is where these people are at. Which is where a lot of people are at in America right now. Young people in particular. But I'm sure people of all ages.
This hurts my neck every time I see this scene.
Yeah. Why is he in the closet? You
tell me.
You tell me. I do think there is some sort of interpretation with, like... the scenes, or not the scenes, the locations and the costumes and the ideas in the movie. I really love movies where you get to, it kind of invites a sort of engagement with the text, where it's like something like Hodorowski or like Maya Deren. Like, what does it mean? Well, you tell me. Like, you as the audience member you have to meet the filmmaker halfway. I don't think this movie does that, but I like to think there are still like kind of interesting threads, I think, that you could interpret. Like, I'm stuck in the closet here, kind of metaphorically. Whatever that means, whether that's like homosexual or whatever, like, that's up to you, but I am in a closet. And at the end of the movie, I'm trapped in the wall, and Sam has to get me out. There's also a parallel. We didn't really harp on this too much, but there was an idea at one point where your character was a double of mine.
Yeah.
So it was a metaphor of you have to save yourself.
Yeah.
In a way. This is now known as the Video Carnage song. Whenever I hear this, all these songs. Also. There's something else. Like, halfway through the movie, I pull Sam out of their house, but at the end of the movie, they pull me out of my house. Also, our homes are very kind of, we don't see a lot of our houses. Like, we see our bedrooms and our closets and our bathrooms. Do we see our bathrooms? No, we never see our bathrooms.
No.
We see like the front. Yeah, our rooms are very cut off. It feels very small and claustrophobic. As opposed to Vincent, who lives in a huge house, and we see the entire thing from top to bottom. There's kind of a class commentary I think you could make there. And again, our movie, I don't think it doesn't invite that kind of reading and kind of engagement with like trying to link all these interpretations, which is something I'd like to do with future movies more, because really those are the movies that excite me the most. But after watching this, look into some stuff from the movies, because there are little Easter eggs here and there with like intentional parallels and intentional parallel opposites or opposite doubles or whatever you want to call it. Which I think it's interesting.
First scene with
our killer,
the boy.
There's a lot of ways you could have played this scene, but we chose to play it like we knew something was off with Vincent from the very start.
Yeah,
that was a choice. It's kind of all a matter of like, something's wrong when you finally see what's wrong. It's kind of like that dread leading up to the moment. That was the idea. As you see, Vincent's wearing a green shirt there.
Hope you have a wonderful day. You too. Let me know if you have any questions.
I'm just noticing this, but there is something about Vincent's costume, because his is not quite as business formal as mine, but it's somewhere in the middle between casual and more businessy.
Yeah.
There's something there. What it means, you tell me. That's just a TV within a TV.
Well, we should talk about the I guess the VHS process of like not converting, but like how we shot stuff on VHS, digitize that, put it back on VHSs.
Oh, yeah. So it's a trip. It's because.
And that journey's gone even further now that things are back on VHS, playing on a TV again.
So all the Video Carnage tapes, like the literal tapes that Mike watches and Vincent shot, those are we shot those on mini DV. We converted them onto DVD, put that as a digital file on my computer, put it back onto a flash drive, USB flash drive, dubbed that onto a VHS tape, so we could watch within the movie. That's what it took to get that to actually play on. So none of the screens you see in the movie are fake. They're all actually there.
Yeah.
Because it just looks better that way. Green screening screens I never think looks very good. And so that's what it took to get on the screen. But then we recorded again on your camera for the movie, put it on my computer, and now it's back on a VHS tape.
Playing on a TV.
Playing on TV. It's the cycle of...
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's a small thing. What? I want you.
Something I'll point out too is our lighting continuity is all over the place.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Like, there's blue lighting over here on behind Mike, but only red around Sam.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll see, if you watch, the lighting throughout multiple scenes will change, like, from shot to shot. And that's just because we don't really worry about lighting continuity.
Yeah.
We just worry about what looks good for that shot.
Yeah.
And so, and especially for stuff like this, where the lighting, the color does have character meanings, I'll intentionally kind of let characters' colors bleed into others for certain shots, depending on just their relationship or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's intentional.
It's intentional, but at the same time, like, we just move around for what looks good too. Like, there's that balance. So
we're not very realist filmmakers.
No,
we're not really into that.
We are into Paul Blart Mall Cop.
Well, yes, the most realist cinema there is. Yeah. But yeah, like in the previous shot of Sam, there was no blue light on the walls.
And
now
I
there
moved
is.
those over.
And that, again, intentional, because Mike that's his color.
Yeah.
And he's
kind of
trying to help.
in.
Yep. Which doesn't...
And the interpretations like that don't work for all scenes from the movie. Like, sometimes the red lighting accenting like your character when he's reading is just because the red lighting helped the scene pop a little better.
But I think though, because I am feeling like Sam.
Mm-hmm.
Sam is all red.
Yeah.
I am mostly blue, but there's hints of red in there.
Yeah.
Because later on, when I say like I feel the same emptiness that you do.
It's true.
It kind of leans into that.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, you find something for us to watch. I'll go get the tacos.
The sound has never sounded better.
One of the greatest lines in the movie.
That was improv. After May said that, we were cracking up. We were like, that's... I think a split second after they say that in the take, we all started laughing, so...
But it was just enough to make it in.
Yeah.
One of those things where you're like, no, like, that's the take.
Yeah.
That was it. Let's
move
on.
Yep. Yeah.
It feels like we lived in that closet for, like, so long for just the shooting.
Yeah.
It was very cramped.
Yeah.
Like, but we got pretty good about, like, maneuvering in there.
Yeah, we made it work. It definitely doesn't... I mean, it does look cramped, but it felt even more cramped when you're shooting.
There's two people standing in there.
Like, it looks like there's space to move around, but lots of times, like, you were just, like, inches away from me.
Yeah, just outside of frame. You have a water heater in there, too, so there's, like, no room.
Might I point out the green lighting, because...
yeah, Vincent's...
Gosh, this is so, like, trippy right here. Maybe we should record another commentary where it's purely based on the movie, not about watching the movie on a VHS tape.
I'll note the green bathroom.
Yes.
I mean, the lighting as a whole is green, but
yes.
the green bathroom particularly, that was a point we had to get.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I shot your closet, though, from every possible angle. Like,
yeah.
It was just it got to the point of, like, what shots can we get? Like,
yeah.
What's different?
Yeah.
Just trying to find variety.
Yeah. Now, there was a backstory to your character that I had kind of figured out. Because I wrote a whole bunch of fake articles about what happened to your character and piecing together clues. And, you know, as a result of just making the movie, those scenes ended up being cut. Those articles were cut out. There was a montage where I was reading into your character, like what happened, but we didn't need it. Ultimately, that wasn't the kind of direction we wanted to go with the movie. But essentially what happened was now I don't know how you met Vincent necessarily, but there's a bar in Portland by Portland State called what's it called? The Something Turtle? The Something Tortoise?
Okay.
It's off of, you know when you come off the freeway? Into
yeah.
downtown? I think it's on 6th, maybe?
I think I know what you're talking about. It's like that sports one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Something Turtle, Something Tortoise. Back in the 80s, there was a serial killer who worked at that bar. In my head, you went to that bar after meeting some friends, and you were kidnapped by Vincent. Brought you back to his house, tortured you. He made you clean his house, kind of do a bunch of chores and weird kind of stuff, and then he killed you.
Mm-hmm.
Why Vincent is the way he is, I mean, again, you tell me. But
He just really likes to clean house.
yeah,
He just doesn't want to do it himself, though.
yeah. But it's, yeah, so, like, I think it's always a good rule of thumb when you're making a movie. Even if the audience doesn't know, you should know.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't leave the audience with the question that you don't have the answer to unless... Actually, there no unless. Just don't do it.
Yeah.
I think that's better filmmaking when there is intention.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure, like, you could do that. I'm sure other filmmakers get away with that where we're like, I don't know. And they genuinely don't know. But for me, it has to be intentional. Gosh, how long has this been so far?
I have no idea.
This is definitely, obviously, this is our longest movie. And I think it's an hour and 40 minutes?
It's 100 minutes total.
I think we could have cut this down to 130 or even 125. But I really wanted that fast pace, or I mean that slow paced, especially in the first half of the movie.
I mean, no scene is, like, useless at this point. Like, we've cut it down to the point where, like, I feel like every scene does serve a purpose. Even if you could make an argument of why you could cut it, I think every scene in this movie is well-paced. And
I think you could
strings well.
There's stuff you could trim for sure, and there's definitely shots that go on. Like, there's a lot of driving stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I really wanted this to be kind of slower paced and kind of draw you into the world.
Yeah.
There's a film. I think it's either Shou Xiao Shen, if I'm pronouncing that right, or Tsai Ming Liang, and they make movies. Oh shoot! They're both Hong Kong filmmakers, or one's Taiwanese.
Mm-hmm.
One of those countries, not mainland China. There's one of them. I think it's called What Time Is It There, or it's. Oh shoot! What's the name? What is it? Oh, that's gonna kill me. There's a movie they have, and one of them has where there's like a 5-minute scene, 2 shots of a guy driving in his car down the road.
Mm.
So it's a one shot of a guy, like medium shot in the car. He's driving for like 2.5 minutes, unbroken shot, nothing's happening.
Jeez.
Then it cuts to the road, and we follow that for like 2.5 minutes.
Wow.
It's long, and that's slow paced cinema. That is like really what it is about. But for me, I didn't want to go that full amount, but I wanted to bring some of that flavor, that kind of Taiwan, Hong Kong cinema into here.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, when they think of Hong Kong or Taiwan, they're like, oh yeah, action movies and stuff. And it's like, yeah, that stuff's great, but there's a lot of great drama, kind of more real cinema coming out of those countries.
I gotta point out, this shot already passed, but it was when you're looking at your phone in the bed. I love how that's like replaced. That's the same shot where we'd be reading Nancy Drew, but now it's like that's kind of replaced the Nancy Drew book. We're gonna, like, that's the new thing for you now.
But it's also a little bit odd, too, why I'm so obsessed with you. Mm-hmm. So there's kind of like a Vertigo obsession kind of thing going on.
Yeah.
Which is another... I think there's some similarities a little bit with the tracking. I mean, I think that's the Vertigo has like the best, I'm going to follow somebody throughout their day kind of montage. Which we're not as good as in this movie, but it's really interesting connection, I think. This is the scene, I think, where it starts to feel a little bit more like a Nancy Drew movie. Because you got the music going with that kind of synth sound or whatever, and then it comes in here and it's like, okay, I think there's something wrong. This felt to me like a bunch of kids solving mysteries.
Yeah.
Especially my outfit, because I'm dressed like a detective. I mean, that is pretty much a detective outfit by this point in this movie.
Everybody makes mistakes. You talk to this guy and met him like, what, once? Twice? I don't think you have enough evidence.
I always think this scene is so weird. I don't know if it works. It might work for you.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's weird. but our eye lines in this movie, we're not looking at each other.
I know the camera. I didn't do any
We're
favors
looking
here. The
past each
cinematography is
other.
a little weird.
No, I mean it's not good or bad. It's just like it's a weird choice. I like weird.
It's because you guys aren't seeing eye to eye yet.
Oh snap! There you go.
There it is.
There's nothing that ties this.
There's a lot of two shots in this movie. A lot of unbroken two shots.
Like, could just
Or I guess technically that's broken up, but we shot it like unbroken,
Yeah.
where it's just us talking.
They have inserts.
That I think generally when I make my philosophy with conversations and scenes and stuff is like, what's the reason you cut?
looks like a weird video of a weird kid.
Like, if you're gonna switch to a new angle or a new shot, like give me a reason.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't the best one because the cutting away was mostly done for pacing purposes. But like if you look at our very first scene together, we're talking in a two shot like this, and then I'm like, what's going on the TV? And then we see the TV, and then it cuts back and it's a new angle. That was kind of to show a shift in the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how I work. Obviously that's not always how it ends up. But I try to like leave stuff, you hold on a shot, and if there's got to be a meaning for why you cut, essentially. So for a movie like this, I mean, if you watch any of our other movies, I think we cut a lot more generally. But in this movie, I didn't think there was a need to have us cut all the time.
Yeah.
Like we just didn't need that.
No, and I think it's great the way the slowness of this movie, I think, is a great contrast to some of our other stuff.
It's also, I mean, I've gone as long as I can without talking about it, but I didn't storyboard this movie. I know, shocking, right? You probably know that if you've seen our other behind the scenes, but that is a very important part of my process where I storyboard everything and I like make a comic book of my movie, and I didn't get to do that with this. So that probably had an influence on how this movie looked and turned out. Mm-hmm. Here, these are new shots. So in the very beginning of the movie, where we do the during the Lord montage, and I cut, and where it's how I'm digitizing tapes. All the shots are from the same angle. Mm-hmm. Every time we kind of see that throughout the movie, except when we see Vincent's tapes, his weird tapes, we change up the angles with like putting in the tape, putting in the DVD thing, grabbing this blank CD. All those angles are new angles that we haven't seen before because again, we're trying to show that things are changing.
Yeah.
I love this shot.
Yeah.
The one of the green in the background, green on the TV. Super fun. The music here is intentionally pretty sounding, I guess, for lack of a better word. Like, there's a way we could have played it where it was more kind of aggressive and angry, which would have fit, but I liked the idea of, like, combining, like, the beautiful and the horrific and kind of making something odd and uncanny.
Yeah.
Which is the point behind this whole scene and this theme that you hear. You hear it a couple times throughout the movie. I think you hear it here. You hear it again when we see this tape. Vincent watches tape, and I think there's like two other points in the movie where we see it or we hear it. How about you talk about why we shot this scene the way we did? The actual tape.
Oh.
Yeah.
Like the handheld portion.
The handheld and why we don't see the knife and the murder and everything.
Yeah. So this is obvious. This was the first thing we shot of the movie, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah, this is the very first.
So what we did, we shot it in a way where we could hide kind of all of our tricks of like making this murder, try and look as realistic and brutal as possible. So I had created two knives. I had one knife, my kitchen knife. That's like that big one that we see, and that's real. Mm-hmm. And he holds that and everything. We see that in the shot. But I had made a second one, which is made of popsicle sticks and tin foil. That's like tape laminated
right
with tape. Yeah. So that way I could like be slashed with it and wouldn't get hurt. So what we did was we would have Travis film his own hand like going up, and then Jordan would be behind him. They'd switch out the knife, and then we'd start slashing, and then Jordan would come in, cut up my shirt, pour blood on me, and we kind of repeated that where Travis would slash a couple times, we'd pause, cut up my shirt, pour more blood.
Yeah.
and we just did that to kind of, you know, it was the easiest way, and we knew we could cover up a lot of those in-between moments just in cutting and editing. And we also knew that we were probably going to shoot a lot of your close-ups and not show as much of the gore.
And it's one of those things with limitations becomes a creative choice, because if I had... Listen, I would have loved to do a version where it's like, you know, throat is slit, knife going in, like really nasty and disturbing stuff. But we couldn't do that. And so then we decided to take it the angle of, okay, violence of any kind is horrific, so we're not going to show it. We're going to hear it, but we're not going to show it. Which is kind of why we stay... I mean, we could have played the full tape.
Yeah.
How I kind of chopped it up and everything. But
your reaction plays more powerful than seeing me get killed.
Yeah, I think so. Travis is scary here.
Yeah. Jeez.
This is definitely a movie that I think, again, we're not so into realistic kind of movie. I mean, we enjoy them, watching them, but making them, we definitely aren't into that so much. I think there's a lot of points in the movie where if it was realistic, right, like, it would have gone down a whole lot different. If Vincent realizes that he just gave this kid his murder tapes... Like, first of all, I think Vincent's very put together. I don't see how he could have mixed up where his tapes were in the first place.
Yeah.
So let's say he did end up doing that, and he gives them to me. I'm gonna, like, if I'm Vincent, I'm like, oh, this kid's definitely, even if I think he's seen him, I'm going to kill him.
Yeah. And he doesn't seem convinced here initially.
Yeah.
Especially.
But we never kind of dive into that so much. And part of that's because we just don't see Vincent, but also that's kind of not what I was super interested in, like the mechanics kind of thing. You know, you see great movies like Zodiac or Seventh, or what's that other one? Oh, it just lost me. Never mind.
Yeah.
There's movies out there. Don't Breathe, where it's really concerned with like cause and effect, where, you know, if I walk on the floor, like it's a creak, what effect does that creak have on the plot and everything? Or like this little piece of evidence, this little line, this reaction, this means this or this means that. This isn't a movie like that. It's very broad with the plot. Because we weren't really concerned with that so much. We wanted to make something that was more like, again, metaphorical, where it's the details of the murder and the crime aren't so important. What's important is that these two friends felt really terrible about life, and they found a purpose. They found this thing to fight for, and it gave them the energy to not give up, pretty much. That was more of the concern, as opposed to, you know, how did Vincent do it? How do we break in and everything?
But there was a version where that was important.
Yes, so, okay, this would be interesting to talk about, actually. In the original version we were going to shoot, Vincent's tapes that I was digitizing were security cam footage of his house. And I actually kind of wish we still had done that. But the problem was, it was too hard to figure out how Sam and I would break into the house with already setting up that, hey, he's got a bunch of security cameras all over. And it was one of those things where I never came up with a solution I was quite happy with. And by the time we decided to rewrite the script to have maybe a main character, pretty much, I was like, you know what, I'll just take that out. We won't worry about that so much.
Yeah. Definitely made our job a lot easier.
Yeah. But again, like, there is a version of this movie where it is a lot more technical with the details of how did Vincent, you know, kill you? How do we catch him? How do we break in? How do we get the tapes out? I mean, there are elements of that in the original version of the script, but it's just not, you know, ultimately we just weren't concerned with that so much. And that's some good advice I'd give to any filmmaker. Don't focus on what you're not interested in. And it'll become, then the movie will feel more like you. Like, if you are not a fan of playing music in movies, don't put music in movies. And that's your take on the world and everything. If you don't like boring normal lighting and you like bright colors like red and green and blue like we do, don't do normal colors. Do this.
Yeah.
Because that's you and that's your voice and that's how you see the world and that's kind of the world you want to create. This is my favorite. No, this is my favorite shot in the movie because it tells you so much about what I'm going to do and why I'm going to do it and all that kind of thing. And I'm so glad that Nancy Drew became a thing in our movie.
Yeah.
Because I think before I just kind of thought about it.
Yeah.
I think I was just sitting there looking depressed and I looked over at the tapes and I was like, I'm going to steal the tapes.
Yeah. No, this gives you 10 times more motivation.
Yeah. Yeah. You'll notice that a lot of the insert shots actually here, not all of them, some of them, like where I'm putting the tape in, those are just repurposed from the intro of the movie. See, there's the red and blue lighting.
Oh, I didn't even notice.
Now you know. And that was just me not wanting to reshoot all that.
That's a good point. We shot so much. I was sick of that closet by the end.
And again, I mean, there's lots of rushed parts to the movie, and that was just the nature of us becoming burned out. But, you know, the way I look at it is like, the movie is what it is. I can stress and fret and lose hair and sleep about this movie for the next 3 months or whatever, you know, however long it takes. I could do that to myself, or I can just accept that the movie's never going to be perfect. And I will promise that I will do better than I did on this one on the next movie.
This is one of my favorite shots in the movie. This shot is so good.
Yeah.
And the slow motion that you added to, like, oh.
Yeah.
It's a perfect shot.
I was surprised with, like, I was like, ooh, I look cool. That's my go-to thing. We have a filmmakers chat with some of our other buddies, and whenever I, like, instead of the sunglasses emoji, I just send that picture.
This is also a great shot. I mean, it's like our Western standoff shot, pretty much, but I love that it got repurposed. In something that's totally not a Western, or a standoff in any way.
Yeah.
But it is.
Yeah. It totally is.
It's a standoff that only one of the characters knows is a standoff.
Yeah.
Oh, so cool.
Yeah, the sequence goes on. I could see you saying the sequence goes on for too long. And you know what? You're right. But I'm also right. Because, again, I want, like, this driving stuff, I wanted to kind of draw us in. Obviously, I don't think it's as engaging as, like, the Vertigo sequence. Hey, there's our Vertigo shot, speaking of. But I wanted to sit with the Mike character and kind of really go through this with him.
And it kind of, I mean, it establishes geography as well.
Yeah.
Like, there's a purpose. Like, you know that, okay, Vincent does not live particularly close.
Yeah. And, it turns dark, and it's, you kind of get it.
We got very used to this drive, because this actually was, like, the drive over.
It's like 30 minutes. Yeah.
So, beautiful countryside.
Yeah. It's a drive that, like, I'm not a huge fan of the freeway stuff, but once you get onto, like, the countryside, it's like, yeah, this is a nice drive.
Oh, yeah.
And again, going back to realism, Vincent should have totally seen my car.
Oh, yeah, your headlights are on and everything, especially when you pull into the driveway.
Like,
he's walking in.
But again, we're not super concerned with that kind of cause and effect. Like those super small details. I mean, I guess it's kind of a big detail, but this is a movie. This isn't like a movie that pretends to be realistic or anything.
No.
I don't think. It's like a movie. Like, it's a Hollywood movie. With all the mistakes and flaws and everything. Well, if Hollywood made it, it would probably be technically better and all that. It'd be better. But, you know. Oh, well. There's our first glimpse of the house. Now, I got to tell you about this.
Yeah.
But my aunt and uncle, they're going to have a big screening of the movie.
Oh, they are?
And they're going to invite all their friends. We're invited. I have the email. I'll tell you about it later.
Yeah.
But they're going to play a game where every time they see a shot of the house, they're going to drink.
They're going to be dead.
For 40 minutes into the movie, they're going to be like, there's no house. Okay, this drink is just sitting here. But then for the second half, they're going to die of alcohol poisoning.
That's a terrible game.
Yeah, I'll tell you about that afterwards.
Yeah, no, that sounds fun.
I love this because this really made it feel like Taxi Driver.
Yeah.
Like the bumpy, shaky camera on the road. Just that the fact we only hear the ambience of car driving.
And this particular, this small town intersection looks great. I was so concerned. I was like, man, these shots aren't usable at all. They're so shaky because I brought the wrong tripod. I had like a crappy one. And
we needed. Okay, speaking of going back to realism, right? We wanted to find a place that just said, a building that just said police on it, or cops, or police department. We that's what we want because again, not going for realism, we're going for heightened reality.
You get it.
You get it.
Police.
You get it. And we looked everywhere for a building that had police on the side, and then we were like, I think you were like, what about the?
There's one by my sister's place.
Yeah, and we're like, well, let's drive over. Let's see what happens.
We weren't even sure what it would look like when we'd get there.
We pulled up, and that's what we see. We're like, perfect. We're using it. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
How'd you get this?
I followed him after he picked up the tapes.
We definitely shift perspectives and focus, I think. I mean, that already happened by this point, but it definitely was about May and Sam and Mike, their friendship. Then it kind of shifted to Mike finding a kind of mission. And now we're kind of in that mission mode.
Mm-hmm. He's dragging May in.
Yeah, but we kind of get like May's...
Sam.
They're the same character. We get Sam's reluctance, I think. We understand that more.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have to do much, just sit.
And I think a thing of pacing where if this was a...
You haven't even heard my idea.
if we wanted to be fast, if we wanted to not kind of care about the movie we wanted to tell, there is a version of this where we cut out the police scene, because what does that beat matter? Like, what does that add to Mike's story? Like, it's a lot cleaner if Mike gets the address and then drives to Sam and just tells them immediately.
Yeah.
But I wanted to sit with Mike in that decision for a little bit. I wanted it to show that he's thinking about the police and actually thought about it instead of just showing it through dialogue here. Another example that's coming up right after this is after Sam decides to join me on my quest, it would be a lot cleaner if, bam, cuts to Mike and Sam in the car driving to Vincent's house, right?
Yeah.
But no, I wanted to show that Sam still had that reluctance to leave the house.
And will continue to.
And will continue to.
Yeah.
And they're not really, they're just doing this kind of because Mike's forcing them to.
Yeah.
I mean, not forcing, not twisting their arm around, but like, come on, like, you're not doing anything. I really wanted to build up that, like, idea that Sam is, like, not into this. Sam is not in it for really anything. I mean, Sam's not even, we don't even know if Sam's looking for a job again. Sam's, for all we know, Sam is just kind of giving up and just doing whatever. You know, watching TV.
It's really hard for you to get out of bed. I know it's even harder for you.
I think another choice that we,
asking a lot of you.
it's a creative thing that adds to that creates this world. We never see our parents.
Yeah.
My dad was in the script,
That means that
and we referenced Sam's mom, but their mom was never in the script, and we never shot them. But it's one of those things where sometimes you think it's got to be like real life, and in real life they would be living at home with their parents. We would see their parents, we'd see their siblings, but
I know you're not
you don't really need to see that.
No.
You know, I mean, if that's the story you want to tell and you want to show their like world like totally real, do it and like go for it.
Yeah.
But for us, I don't really need to see I don't need to see our parents in the movie as like this kind of showing their world. I think the point of the movie is that they're isolated and alone, so it made sense for them to be alone.
Yeah.
I'm sure everybody's seen this, but like Wong Kar-wai's In the Mood for Love, it's a movie about two people whose spouses are cheating on them, but we never see the cheating spouses in the movie, and it just adds to that sense of loneliness because we see them alone and they talk about their husbands and wives, but we never see them, so they feel more alone. And that's kind of the idea behind never seeing the parents, because like there's your mom's car.
Yeah.
Your mom, but it would have been
would've
Sam's
been, yeah.
Sam's mom. So
And again, I do love how, again, they do have these whole houses that they live in, but you're only trapped in one small corner of
Yeah.
it, so it just feels that much more like they're just cut off from everything.
yeah. Again, making like, what's the world we've been living in for the last year or so? What does it look like to be a young person in America these days? Now, obviously, this is true for us and lots of other people, but it might not be true for you. But I think there's aspects of it that I think a lot of people can relate to.
walk 5 steps today, and 6 tomorrow, and 7 keep pushing yourself until you are ready to leave the house. And that starts today. Either you are coming with me, or you are walking to the window and telling me to my face that you're backing out. I won't be mad if you back out. But I won't
There's
be mad
there's
if you
definitely lots of
walk
different versions of
to
this
the
scene
window.
because there's versions where I'm a jerk to Sam. There's versions where I'm more like encouraging, but I wanted to find a mixture of like I'm pissed off that my friend is bailing on me, but I also want the best for them, but I'm frustrated about it. I mean that's kind of difficult.
It's a lot. Yeah.
If you know anyone who's like Sam, who's just kind of depressed and miserable, you know that it's like they'll cancel on you or they'll flake or they don't really want to do much, and it's kind of exhausting to be around. But the worst thing you can do is kind of get angry with them in terms of them. I mean, I don't know, you got to balance it out, but like you can't just like if someone is going through something mentally, you can't just lash out at them if they disappoint you. You kind of have to look at it from their perspective.
Yeah.
But also, we're humans and we're flawed, and we feel that disappointment and that frustration with people. So that was kind of the idea behind that. In my head, when I was writing this, I pictured a lot of like camera mounted on the hood of the car shooting in.
Oh yeah.
But that's just something. It's damn near impossible to do with our budget
Yeah.
and our resources.
I mean, I could have hung out on the hood of the car while you're driving, but you know.
We have done that.
We
Remember
have.
on the briefcase?
Uh-huh.
But those are
Those were very controlled situations.
and we weren't going at like 65 miles
You're
an
probably
hour.
going like 2 miles an hour.
Here's another example of a scene that could have been, or a sequence that could have been totally shortened. But I wanted it to be longer.
Again, this soundtrack is so good that you just get to hang out in it, and it's like never a bad thing.
Yeah.
This shot, another great one.
Yeah.
I love the river.
They're going against the river.
What a great location.
Yeah. Free for us to use, because it's my aunt and uncle's property. And I will continue to use it.
Absolutely.
I'm going to use it in the next movie I do.
Really?
Yes. I'll tell you
Oh,
more
that's
about
right.
that later. I love this shot.
Yeah.
This to me was like the quintessential image of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Two friends, you know, spying, one with the camera, one with binoculars.
One with the allergies.
And yeah, one with the allergies and the sunglasses.
Yeah, you do know me.
I also love the shirt that May had, the
Mhm.
meh shirt. That's so perfect to their character.
What exactly?
And that was just something
I mean, I
they
couldn't
came with on the day.
I couldn't have written like a better idea of like what should they wear? Maybe a black shirt with the word "meh" on it. Nah, we can't. That'd be too hard to find. Sam had or May had it. It's perfect.
Yep.
So you pick the lock, then you look for the tapes. But if you can't find it,
Well, hopefully these recon missions will give us an idea of...
Again, when we talk about the recon missions and the details of the heist, very vague. We don't get into details too much
No.
because again, we weren't concerned with that so much.
Listen,
Yeah.
this can't be that complicated. All we have to do is wait for a 2-hour window when he's out of the house, and we sneak in, and bam, we got the tapes.
all that easy.
Movement.
The highlight, I think, for a lot of people, you'll notice that shot is reversed
Oh, was it?
because I didn't have the motion of me lifting the camera like that, so I had to reverse the shot.
That's clever.
Yeah,
I
No
didn't
one's
even
pointed
notice.
out.
Never noticed.
Yeah.
So the river's going the wrong way then.
yeah, in that
I
shot.
never
Yeah.
noticed.
Yeah, Billie Eilish, bad guy. It just fit. It's funny.
Yep.
We love it. I mean, this movie. I think it was way more serious on the page, but it was also kind of more vague too. There wasn't a lot of these details, but humor is definitely something that a lot of it came out in the just natural making of it, you know, the editing of it, all that kind of stuff. So we don't play this sequence as like a really jokey thing. We kind of take it with no irony, but at the same time, there's a lot of irony here. And it is funny. I mean, there was a bit where I kind of did more... In the music video for Bad Guy, she does like a weird rolly thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bit where I almost do like a kind of thing like that, but I was like, no, that's too much. That's too on the nose. But when I'm crouching down, it does kind of look like I'm doing that
Yeah.
roll a little bit.
No, it gives that playfulness.
Yeah.
In the same time, still keeping it serious and on point. And again, it goes into that like it's in that same boat as the Lord song. Like, it's so
Yeah.
great. It's like, these are the songs that our generation listens to.
Yeah, it fit.
Yeah.
You know, all the songs like Levitating, Bad Guy, Sail. Those are songs that people our age we all are really familiar with. And it just felt like youthful.
Yeah.
For lack of a better. We're young. We promise we're young. We're cool. We're hip. But yeah. This was another hard sequence to edit because, again, wasn't storyboarded, so I really had to kind of find it in the editing.
Yeah, we were out there just running around all over the place, shooting
Getting
just
random
different
stuff.
things. It would just be, Ethan, go up. I'm going to go up there, and I'm going to
Yeah.
shoot down at you guys, and I would just yell across the field,
Yeah.
like, run from there to there.
It might not look like it's that far, but there's, it's like a football field's length of property. So
I mean, I was using zoom lenses the whole time because, I mean, again, that just gives you that kind of voyeuristic look when you use telephotos. So that was like what I was sticking with for most of the shooting of those scenes.
yeah,
You got it.
yeah.
I really wish you got it. I don't think I've ever seen someone clean their house so much.
Can I tell them about why he cleans his house?
Love them.
Or I think they've seen that. If they've
Have we talked about that?
yeah,
Oh.
Travis. Well,
Oh,
tell it
that's right.
again. That's
well,
a good.
For those of you who have missed the interview with Travis, who plays Vincent, the reason that Vincent's character cleans so much and makes me clean is because early on we were kind of coming up with his backstory. We had the idea of, well, what if he's Mr. Clean, but Mr. Clean's a serial killer? Because Travis is bald. And we were like, well, that's just kind of funny. Because there's a bit, we were like, oh, he goes to the store and buys groceries. We're like, no, he buys cleaning supplies now.
Yeah.
And so we just kind of really leaned into it. And we kind of backed off
Yeah.
from that idea. But it's still totally in there.
Well, again, there were in the original version of the script. When I so originally it was me who breaks into the house. So Mike breaks into the house and not Sam. And when I'm in there, it's the dirt that I leave behind. That's what gets me caught, pretty much. So we did lean into that more, but
Yeah.
we pulled back, and
It's not too late to just quit.
again, we're not too concerned with the details. It was just a funny inside joke.
Mm-hmm.
All I'm saying is that there's no shame in giving up.
If that doesn't sum up their character, I don't know what else.
No shame in giving up.
Yeah.
What's tomorrow?
The garage.
The garage?
The garage is separated from the main part of the house. So it doesn't matter.
That's kind of a Great American Sleepover moment where we repeat the same word over and over again.
Yeah.
Not a good idea. You're gonna
I also love this shot. The lighting is just so good with the sun back there.
Yeah.
Stay sharp. Text them.
Nay's hair just looks great.
It's the golden, like, highlights there. Yeah. Again, we don't really see how I pick the locks because we're not concerned with it. It's just kind of, we see it during the montage, and it's like, you get it. Like, they can pick locks now.
Also, we have no idea how to actually pick locks. We
Yeah.
did not take the time to learn.
I tried. It is a pain in the butt. I couldn't learn how to do it. I'm sure I could have looked up ways to make it look more realistic, but, again, not really concerned. It's more the ideas. And that's kind of like, not to like bash on this movie or anything, but like this to me, this movie isn't like cinema to me. Like, to me, cinema is an experience where you're manipulating time and space in a way that only cinema can. Not a way that a book could, not a way that a comic book could, music or anything like that. And I feel like the story could be told in a book or a comic book or a
This could totally be a Nancy Drew story.
Nancy Drew story. Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with a movie like that. But to me, I would love to, in the future, I really want to try to make movies that are more unique to cinema. Like, what's a story that I can only tell through a movie? What's a story that, if I told it any other way, like outside of a movie, it wouldn't be the same thing whatsoever. Stuff like, old-time experimental films like Maya Deren's work, or like Stan Brakhage, or like just kind of, metaphorical stuff where, like, I think some people can get hung up on the details in a realistic movie, but in a more kind of cinematic movie where it is kind of, in my opinion, what cinema is, it doesn't matter so much.
Yeah.
Like if in a what cinema to me is like walking down a hallway and then suddenly you're in like a hospital instead of a school or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's playing with time and space in ways you just can't in another medium.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually like really far away from you guys.
Yo, you were called. We were on the phone for real.
Yeah.
God, I'm going after him. Excuse me? What about the ground?
This is kind of another sequence that doesn't really add anything to the overall plot. Like it's just me following Travis.
No, but it's also a chance for May to scope out the house.
Yeah. Yeah. It is that, but it's like again, if we wanted to cut the movie down, yeah, we could totally have cut
Yeah, this can be removed.
It was intentional. That's all we're trying to say.
Yeah. What? You leave me here? I had a thought. Maybe he takes Arn at his house. Maybe they're in a storage unit somewhere. Maybe he goes there every day.
They just left me at a serial killer's house.
Look around. Get a good look around. I'll let you know when he's heading back.
This was, I think I say this in my soundtrack video, but this version of the theme that you hear right now, this is the close. So before I make any music, I'll make like a master track where it's like, here's my idea of this theme fully realized. And then after, when I want to start using that theme in the movie, I'll make different versions.
Mm-hmm.
But this version of the theme is the closest to what the original, that master track was.
Oh, okay.
Because it just felt like, I don't know, this sequence felt like kind of quintessential, like what we were going for, like snooping around, following. It felt like, yeah, this is like video, this is what this is about.
Mm-hmm. And I know there was, in some earlier versions, there was like a lot more cross-cutting, especially in like the house scene.
Yeah.
We were walking around because there was going to be both you and Sam,
Yeah.
like, snooping the house together.
Yeah.
So we were going to like, there was a bunch of mixed continuities and stuff. So this kind of comes back to that where Sam's here, you're here, Vincent's here, and it's all kind of this big circle of things that we're tracking all at once.
Yeah.
So I agree. This feels like to the core of what Video Carnage was always going to be.
Yeah.
Even in all of its different changes.
Yeah.
And I think it's cool to see Sam's character having some like
Agency.
exactly.
Yeah. I mean, they always kind of have agency, but
Yeah,
they're just,
but they're like they're stepping into a role beyond
Yes.
their normal.
it's giving them that taste of
Yeah.
like, you know,
They have a purpose that they're kind of starting to feel out in a way alongside you.
yeah.
But they also just want to go home.
Yeah. Yeah, they're sick. They're done with everything
I just
here.
want some burritos.
Here's a good shot to talk about like dubbing. Dubbing for me in this movie was kind of a necessity, but also a creative choice. I really like how
Anything?
working with sound in movies. So in that shot where you see where Sam picks up the phone and kind of
See anything?
looks at it, then runs away, there's no sound there of like the Foley of their clothes or anything. That was a choice. There's moments throughout this movie where I go intentionally like minimal with the sound because you honestly don't need much, in my opinion.
Let's get some food.
Maybe like ambience, voices, and now and then little noises here and there.
Yeah. Just pulled into the Wendy's drive-thru, got some food, and
Yeah,
parked and shot a scene in the Wendy's driveway.
yeah.
It's great.
And this scene, I think, well, this scene and maybe the one where I drop Sam off is kind of like what this movie's about, I think.
Mm-hmm.
When we catch Vincent.
You know, you have one character who's given up, one who won't. But this scene really shows us Sam's point of view and really dives into how they're feeling about just life in general here.
Yeah.
Alright, fine.
And then later, after I drop them off, it's like that's kind of Mike's bit.
Is that the moon in the background?
No, I wish it was.
It looks
You know
like
what?
it.
Well, let's just say it was. Let's just say it is.
Because, like, dang, that looks great. I mean, the blue hour lighting that we used for this movie is, like, my favorite. It's
Yeah.
so good.
Well, it fits with the character too.
Yeah.
The alternative where I'm getting my hopes up and then let down constantly.
It's normal to be excited, to be happy about something that could happen.
I was excited about college, and that just left me thousands of
You know what's funny is after I was so into making this movie, like I was in it for like 2 months. Like this was my world, all consumed by this movie. And I personally, honestly, I kind of related, but I didn't really relate to Sam's character here. Like I did, like
Yeah.
but I didn't let it get me down. After I wrapped the movie, after it was released, I was like, damn, what am I going to do for work? Like, oh my gosh. Because like I just wasn't concerned about like work and money so much when I was making this.
Yeah.
But then after I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with my life? I felt like Sam. So there's I mean, we wrapped, or the movie's been out for
Roughly
4
3
weeks or so.
Yeah.
For those first few weeks, I was like, I felt a lot like Sam, and I really related. I was like, I made the movie for me at this, like, it was like I made this movie because I knew that after I made the movie, I would feel like this. So I made a movie for that person. But I only feel that way because I made the movie. It's a cycle.
So basically what Jordan's saying is he's been using red lighting for his room a lot and
Yes.
he's been eating a lot of Taco Bell in bed. Want to go solve a murder mystery later?
Ugh. You'll hear here. This is the theme of
Sure will be fine.
This is like the theme that plays when we hear Video Carnage or when we see that 7th tape for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Again, mixing that kind of beautiful sound with the horrific.
It's a great theme.
Mike, let's get out of here. Let's go.
I do love this sequence where
Yeah.
we finally get to see like
Yeah.
Vincent is
Yes.
100% the killer.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, we saw
I
his
thought there was a
face.
question before.
Yeah.
Not there was a question before, but like
He's still
he
dangerous.
is, yeah.
Yeah. I originally wanted to play this on this TV that we're currently watching on, but with the schedule we had that night, it was too much to lug that TV around.
Yeah.
So
You guys just happen to have the same little TV.
the masks makes it really uncanny too. If you find weird little, if you're making a serial killer movie or a horror movie, little details can really change the tone of something. Because I mean, if it was just Vincent watching, with no mask, that'd been fine. But the mask kind of removes that level of humanness to Vincent.
And the fact that I'm also in the same mask in the tape. So you assume like, oh, he's wearing the same mask that I was murdered in.
Yeah.
It's like the equivalent of him watching like his honeymoon tapes, pretty much.
Yeah. Well, there's a thing. I forgot to mention this earlier, but there is a thing with the age gap too. The fact that Vincent is older than us, and he's killing young people. It seems like, for all we know.
Yeah.
I think there's something to be said there about our current, how America is right now.
We live in a society.
We live in a society. Yeah. This really is the best way to watch the movie.
It's pretty
honest.
great.
Any of my gripes with the movie are like, it's fine.
Yeah.
Because it's like the VHS aesthetic covers so much of it up.
Yeah.
I'm curious what it will look like once the aspect ratio shifts.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
I mean, we kind of already did with the Billie Eilish thing, but we never went 239.
Close. Nathan's counting on us.
And that sequence when Sam sees the videotape is really important because it's kind of like Sam's just going with the flow. They aren't really invested. They're not really doing this for their own benefit they're doing it because Mike's pretty much dragging them along. But seeing the tape, that's like that moment of fear and being like, that could be me. That could be us.
This is real.
This is real. I'm done. And I think that's two very real reactions people have when they see something scary, regardless if it's a murder or like just anything that life throws at you. Like there's people who dive into it and try to fix it or confront it like Mike, and there's people who run from it like Sam.
This is like the perfect mix of the fight or flight.
Yeah.
You just have two characters with different responses dragging each other along.
Yeah. Because if Sam had seen that tape earlier, Sam would have been like,
Forget about it.
yeah, I'm not doing this whatsoever. Give it to the police. They'll help.
I'm out.
I'm out. And that's important because I think Sam, up to this point, was never really sure if Vincent was a murderer. Up to this point, all Sam had seen was footage of you cleaning the house.
Yeah.
So it's important to have them actually see it and be like, no, 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 he is the killer, and see how Sam reacts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, another driving shot that could have been shortened, but, you know.
And it lets you sit
No,
again.
we're
You
going to
gotta
sit with this. We're going to sit with this for a little bit.
Promise me you're done.
I'm going to take him down. I'll find a way.
And another thing, too, with the police is,
Hire a PI.
I think, especially after last year, I don't think people are... It used to be in a movie where it's like, why don't they just call the police?
Mm-hmm.
And the police will take care of it. I think after last year, I think people are aware that, you know, a lot of times police aren't doing their jobs, what they're supposed to do. So the idea that the police aren't helping or wouldn't help is kind of... I think most people can buy that now these days than rather than like, you know, 10, 15 years ago even.
Mm-hmm.
But also, like, I think it just adds validity to the situation. Like, it is so insignificant systematically to the police, like what's going on here,
Yeah.
that even when Sam goes to them, the police, and is like, hey, there's a problem, the police are like, yeah, whatever, we won't... I mean, I wanted to make we wanted the characters to make them feel isolated and alone and small, unimportant, and having, you know, there's nothing worse than having like people of authority who can help your problem not listen to you.
Mm-hmm.
But also, again, it's like, how do young people feel these days, right now, this moment? Well, police aren't doing their jobs, and that's kind of what that's really all about.
Mm-hmm.
Why they're not there. But it's great that more people are aware of that, because one, we can fix the real problems in the world, but two, makes it easier in storytelling, because it's like, you don't have to explain. Like, it's like, listen, the police don't always help.
Yeah.
We don't have to explain that, because that's how it is in real life sometimes.
Mm-hmm. It's like in
A lot
that
of
horror.
times.
It's like that horror movie trope of why they just use their cell phones. You have to
Exactly.
explain away cell phones, but it's like, oh, the work's been done for us.
Yeah, Sheep Theater by Dan Lotz.
Fitting.
I think if you haven't seen it, check it out. 922 Films. Dan's character in that movie is, I think, similar to Sam to an extent in this one.
Mm-hmm.
Tell the story about the cell phone.
Oh, so we shot a bunch of these sequences all at once where Sam is texting Mike and apologizing. So May just went in to Jordan's contact and changed it to Mike. But so we filmed the scene, a bunch of apology texts,
and they said
over and over.
It was like, hey, what's going on? Are you mad? Don't be mad. We need to talk. Just call me. Freaking out kind of stuff.
Yeah, like really bad. And we finished the scene. All of a sudden, May gets a text, and we realize they changed the wrong contact.
It was so fun because they were like, hey, did you respond to me? And I was like, no. And they were like, oh shoot, I don't know who I've changed this contact to, and I've just been spamming them with help me.
It was like one of their roommates.
Friends, yeah.
No, it cleared up really quick, but
Yeah.
we realized like, oh, whoops.
Could have been bad.
Could have been bad real quick.
I mean, I guess it wasn't like insulting. It was just like, hey, help me.
It was just like, it would have freaked the other person out,
Yeah.
made them really worried.
Yeah.
Heard from Mike recently. Haven't heard from you. Hoping you haven't done anything too stupid.
This was a section that just was shrunk down a lot, because these conversations, I remember, in some of the earlier cuts were really
Yeah.
played out.
Yeah.
Please get back to me, man. I'm sorry. I was a dick. Okay, is this...
And honestly, it would have still worked if I used just only one of the conversations.
Yeah.
But again, I wanted, as we got closer to the end of the movie, I mean, when Sam gets into the house, you know, cinematically or like film language wise, everything is different.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to start to show that with like a lot of this cross-cutting montage kind of stuff.
And just that the cuts are getting tighter now.
Yeah.
Would appreciate a heads up to make sure you're still alive. Have you heard from Mike? Call me back. I just haven't seen him around
You know, I did not add back onto the VHS tape thing. I did not add any distortion, any grain whatsoever
This
on
is
this.
very
So all that
intense.
grain is real. Like, that's how the VHS is presenting it. That's real.
That's it.
Yeah, I literally just dropped the thing onto a timeline, didn't change the video at all, didn't add any VHS effects.
I'm gonna say though, the grain flowing that direction reminds me of the river from the scenes earlier, so it kind of plays in.
What we're saying is you need to buy the VHS tape of this.
Hey, is this the non-emergency number? Cool. Yeah, no, my buddy.
The phone
Mike
drops.
has been
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
Nobody's been able to hear from him.
Yeah, this was definitely a much longer conversation with the police. But,
Mm-hmm.
Like an address.
and we don't hear the police. Whenever Sam talks to anybody on the phone, we do not hear the voices. But when Mike calls people on the phone, we hear their voices. And again, that was a choice that, one, were from Mike's point of view, but also in this moment, I wanted I wanted Sam to feel really alone and isolated.
Mm-hmm.
And again, they're trapped in their red room. There's no one around. There's no voices. It's just them screaming at seemingly nothing. That was a choice.
Sure,
Yeah.
he's either there or not, and that everything's all good. See, maybe if that dude's seen him. Is there like anything? Can you send a patrol car to just drive by and look at the house? Oh, sure. Fine, whatever. Just thank you for your help. You've been great, truly.
All of that was I think every one of those conversations too.
Yeah.
Those were all improvised.
We just gave prompt of you're calling
Yeah.
Mike's friend, you're calling his dad, calling the police.
Yeah, and I would
They-
say we would do a take usually, and then afterwards, if I wanted to change, I'd be like, try to like with a goal. Like I think there's a couple versions where I was like, just call the police and see what happens, and then on the next one I'd be like, okay, call the police and ask. Your goal is to get them to drive over to Mike's or Vincent's house. Blue lighting, I
Yeah.
will notice, or that you'll notice. Because again, Sam is now getting more into that like Mike role.
Mm-hmm. Also, it just looks real nice at
Yeah.
night. So Sam's not driving here.
Nope.
This is just parked in my
Well,
driveway.
Sam is driving.
Sam's
May
driving. May is
not
not driving.
May does not have a license.
So we just parked the car
Mm-hmm.
in a dark area, and we have like on a light stand the blue light, and we would just lift it up and then past, and then that was it.
Yep.
It's just head on.
And it works.
It looks great. Got some Gene Wilder hair going there.
Blazing Saddles.
Getting a little bit of handheld now.
I know. Yeah.
Just a touch.
Just a little bit. Yeah, the idea behind this movie was everything in terms of film technique wise was going to be completely different than the end of the movie. So every single shot prior to breaking into the house was going to be on a tripod, going to be locked down. It was going to be ADR'd. And then everything in the house would be a different aspect ratio. It would be handheld. It would use on-set audio. That didn't end up happening exactly, but that was the intent and what we tried to do.
And we kind of just played it off instead as
The aspect ratio is the biggest change, but I think the handheld works here too.
The handheld's good. No, because it is that it's Sam on their own at the
Yeah.
house. Kind
Pretty
of,
much whenever you see Sam on their own, it is handheld. I mean, at least at the house.
yeah.
Sam alone
the
at the
handheld.
house. Yeah.
At the house, yeah, not at the handheld.
Emergency.
But this is handheld. This phone call.
Yeah.
And we just
Interesting.
found this car outside of
forgot.
his house that he's been working with, I guess. And I'm really hoping we can send someone there to check on him to make sure he's all right.
And this conversation does play out.
Yeah.
No, I don't
Yeah.
have anything.
It makes it more powerful when you have chopped up conversations earlier to have this conversation
Really suspicious.
just
that he's missing
played out.
a couple days and nobody's gonna get a hold of him. And like we find his car outside his house, and we just don't know what's happening.
And again, realistically, if Sam was a real character and really was like
Could be in there.
not into
Like my friend could be there.
leaving, and like I would imagine they wouldn't go and break into the house.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't find Mike. But ultimately, that's not the story I wanted to tell. I wanted it to be inspiring at the very end. I wanted it to be not realistic, but like metaphorically realistic. Because when you encounter those struggles in life, if you push through and not give up, it'll turn out for the better. Like, you just can't give up. And realistically, or I mean, metaphorically, that's true. Now, the realistic nature of like breaking into a serial killer's house and getting your friend, I don't know if that's realistic, but like metaphorically, that's the idea. That's the intent.
Yeah.
Coca-Cola should pay us for...
And Panda Express.
And Panda Express.
Truly.
Yeah.
We would just, for like the months leading up to this movie, we were just saving our trash.
Yeah.
All our cans. And...
Yeah. This is probably my favorite music drop in the movie, I think. And it's one of those things where like trailers really come in handy, because there's an effect when you see a movie and you hear a song that you didn't expect to hear. It's like, oh, that's cool. But if you go see a movie and in the trailer they use an awesome song and you're like, gosh, I hope they play that song, and then you hear the song, it has a different effect on you. Which is, obviously, if you've seen this movie, I think you've probably seen the trailer for this. So this was in the trailer. And it's just one of those fun things you can play around with, like paratext, you know, preparing your audience for your movie. Like, what's another case?
Thor Ragnarok, I think, is a great example.
Yes, Thor Ragnarok used Immigrant Song. So when you heard it in the movie, it was like, yeah!
Yeah, it's a great action song.
Yeah, so it kind of prepped you for that. That's the idea behind this song. And now, this song actually wasn't in the movie originally. It was like very last minute, because I used a score that I composed.
F and Nancy Drew's the name of the track.
It's on our soundtrack, official soundtrack. But I used this because I was like, you know what? I love this song. I wish it was in the movie. I'm going to see if I can find a place for it.
And we were already in on the copyrighted music thing anyway, so we weren't worrying about it.
Yeah. No, I think this is like the best version of the song in my opinion. Like, I heard this years ago and I was like, that is like better than the original.
Oh, 100%.
It's so good. And I chopped this version up. Go like listen to the real version. It's
really
like
good.
Kawehi, Kawehi. I think that's how you spell her name.
She's
Sail
on YouTube.
cover. She's
Yeah.
on YouTube. She does like loops. So this is like, there's no drums in the song. This is her beatboxing. It's just really
It's
distorted.
really cool. It's one of those great ones where it's like her like building the song up
Yeah.
over time. It's really good.
Yeah.
Her voice is fantastic.
Yeah. No, I've been following her for years, and she's been one of my favorite like YouTube musicians and whatnot. But check her out because she's awesome. Obviously, I think you all know who like Lorde and Billie Eilish and Dua Lipa are. So, I mean, stream them too. But also, you know, this artist here.
Go comment on her video saying "Video Carnage brought you."
Yeah.
I don't think she'll know what that means, but
Yeah.
maybe she'll like this movie, or maybe she'll get it taken down. I don't know.
Yeah.
Hopefully not.
Maybe she'll watch it. She'll like it. Hopefully. We're almost to the end of the movie here. It's almost done.
We see the craziest thing on screen in this movie. It's what May's hand does right
Yes.
here. What is that?
That looks like the footage is reversed, but I promise to you it is not reversed. That is just how their hand moved, and I don't know how to explain that. Because it looks like it's back. It's like rewound.
Yeah, it's so weird.
Ugh. It's a great shot.
Yeah. Oh, that was pretty dope on VHS.
That look because of the glitch.
The glitch.
Oh.
That okay.
Look at that. If you know anything about us, you know we love aspect ratio, and I think when this moment happens and you see the bars on top and bottom, it's a movie. Yeah. Now it's a movie. Before it was like, I mean, it always was a movie, but seeing those bars kind of reminds you that you are watching a movie.
Now it's cinema.
Now it's cinema. Well, even now I wouldn't even... You know, I'll make another video. It's kind of too hard to explain my theory on cinema. But with this, those you associate 239 or 235, you associate that with like a movie. Mm-hmm. And that's what I wanted to have happen from this point on in the movie.
Yeah. And it was a big discussion on how much we wanted to light. And we did several walkthroughs of this scene, both just you and I, before May was on set, and then with May. There's a lot of discussion on how much lighting we would use and where lights would be. But in the end, this is by far the most stripped down version, because there were talks of like having more accent lighting in spots and stuff. But this, it's
literally just
the flashlight, and whatever it happens to bounce the light off of is what we get to see.
Although, if I had in the Army of the Dead behind the scenes, have you seen this yet?
Yeah. No, you told me about it too, but yeah.
What Zack Snyder did was the way he would light scenes, kind of like this, like when they're in the hotels and stuff with all the zombies, it's super dark. He would have a flashlight because he'd hold the camera, and he would just also have a flashlight pointing at the ceiling. Yeah, and that's how he'd light stuff. So if we had seen that,
we would have definitely done that.
We would have tried that as well. Because that would... I mean, honestly, I'm really, really happy with this, actually. But I think if we had heard about that, we'd be like, oh, we're going to do that.
Yeah. I mean, that's just a great piece of advice. That's great.
Just have the cameraman hold the flashlight and bounce it off the ceiling.
That shot is so cool. Once it starts... Because it's static, and also it starts moving, you totally would think it's Vincent's point of view at first. Just adds that extra level of, like... You don't know. Yeah. Like, you know Vincent's not there yet, but he could pop up at any minute.
And this is another case, again... we wanted it to be long and drawn out. Like, we could have chopped this up a little bit more, but I really felt like, no, let's hold with Sam, and let's see them go through the entire house, every single inch of it. A little bit of static there.
This TV is on its last legs, we're pretty sure. So it's...
This is the TV that we used in October. Yeah. But yeah, also, like, when it's revealed where Mike is, you would never in a million years guess that. Unless you, of course, you're friends with my aunt and uncle and know about that, because they show that to everybody.
But once we saw it, we were like, we have to use this. Yeah. Like, it's so cool.
So that's something where I really wanted you to see, like, oh, Mike might be dead. He might just be gone. Like, oh my gosh. Came all the way in here for nothing. Mike's gone. I have to leave. I wanted that beat to be there. And if you saw the whole house, that helped. Surprisingly, you don't see your shadow there at all.
The mirrors were such a thing to jump, and we were really on like a time crunch. We were just trying to move through these scenes, so it was like trying so hard to mess. And there were takes I know where I was in reflections, and you can see my shadow through some of this, but particularly when we come back downstairs. But oh well, is what it is.
I think a combination of the handheld and the aspect ratio change really just makes this ending feel like it has an effect. I don't know what else to say. Like, it has an effect on you as a viewer, how you interpret this image and how you feel about it. Because I think if we had seen your shadow in the other stuff, in the scenes before, it would have been like, yeah, that's not great. Let's maybe not do that. But here, it's like, it doesn't really matter so much. There's so much movement in the frame.
Though I was talking with Chloe, and she saw my reflection in the car at one point.
Yeah.
And I jokingly was like, oh, well, that's just Nathan's ghost leading Mike along. And now I'm like, okay, that's my excuse.
I'll take it. You're the blue Star Wars ghost. That's why it's blue lighting. The Force ghost.
I'm Dr. Manhattan.
Yeah, that too. We never go into the garage, the top level garage.
No.
Or the sauna. But, I mean, again, I don't think it matters that much.
No. You can assume they looked in there at some point. So we do go in the basement.
Yeah, we went in the basement. For me, this stuff felt like, because I cut this all together, and did the sound and everything, and I was like, all right, this is good, but I really don't know if like I didn't know how to feel about it. I was, is this good? Is this bad? Is this terrible or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
When I dropped the music in, I was like, this feels better. Like however I felt about it without the music, I feel better about it with the music because the music builds. It adds suspenseful moments here and there. Like you can do a lot of stuff with music you just can't with just the image to help. Which is advice I'd give to anyone. Like if you can compose your own stuff for your movies, it's great because you can cater the music to your scene. And like you just can't do that if you just drop in like a Danny Elfman track or whatever, or John Williams or whatever.
There's not a cut there.
No.
It looks like there is. I just moved that fast.
Yeah, because your shadow's on the wall.
Yeah.
So.
The blocking was a really big thing we were working on. If you watch the behind the scenes video that's coming out, there's going to be a lot of clips where we're just us talking and breaking that down and walking through it, and you kind of see how we plan it out and stuff and how we discuss it. But there was a lot of work that went into just rehearsing this, and
Yeah.
there was a time we were talking about possibly me being the one, like, and we did kind of do this. I was like telling like, all right, Travis, and go to position 2 and all that. Like we were really working hard to like time this out as good as we could.
Originally, we wanted to do everything in the house
In one take.
One take. But logistically, that just turned out to be way too difficult. So what we did was we took each floor was one take instead, which I actually really like. I like how we cut it up.
Yeah, and I like that we can kind of reframe the beginnings of each shot. I really like. You have a really strong opening of each level.
Yeah, you would never guess this in a million years.
I love the blue light. We tried so hard to make it where the blue light was like poking through the edges, but just the way the door was built doesn't quite work. But
I think if we had a bigger crew, we could have pulled it off.
We could have.
But,
But this is good enough.
This was for everybody you see in this sequence, including cameraman. That was all we had. We had 5 people. Or no, 4 people. 4 people. Yeah.
Keep your crews really lean. Helps you shoot faster.
Yeah, you'll shoot fast.
And we were trying to blow through all this stuff as fast as possible.
Yeah. And I do know for a fact that this entire sequence, I did actually... I brought the black levels up.
Okay.
Like the shadows level up just slightly.
Uh-huh.
Because I was worried about YouTube compression.
Yeah.
After seeing it on YouTube, honestly, I probably would have just left the black levels where they were. Because I was like, oh no, it would have been fine.
Yeah.
But whatever. It's all
looks good.
Yeah, it looks fine. Got that green light.
Nice little, green patio lighting.
Apparently, when we were filming, I didn't know this.
Yeah.
Every time we were by the door,
Did it send like an alert?
it would send like an alert to my aunt and uncle. Or no, I think
like
it's
Nest.
No, what was it? It was when we opened the door.
Oh,
I think.
Oh, we're doing that a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, that's annoying.
But no, I mean, I think it was like an email or something. I don't think it was that big a deal. The neighbors, they saw us filming, and they texted my aunt and uncle, and they're like, is someone doing a ritual in your backyard? And it's like, they're like, no, they're filming a movie, it's fine. But it's so funny because it's like, this is the most normal looking out of all our movies. Like, because we have done movies where there's cults and like monsters, and it's like...
Whole thing, zombies.
Yeah. But this was fairly, like, it was people... If anything, it would have looked... A better guess would have been, are there people robbing your place? Because they're, like, sneaking around in black clothes
like,
and...
filming the house.
Yeah.
And the lights definitely make it into a lot of these shots. Some, none necessarily intentional, but for most of them, I feel like in this setup, again, it gets away with it in a way that the earlier stuff I don't think could have as easily.
They tell you not to have your lights in the movies when
it looks great.
But it's like sometimes it looks really cool. It doesn't matter. I have weird stuff in my room. Maybe that's because we make movies, but like,
yeah,
I have weird lights in weird places, so.
I mean, I know, you know that I'm generally a tripod person. I like to lock down my stuff.
Yeah.
But this makes me, like, really want to shoot more handheld.
See? And my thing is, I'm not, like, anti-tripod.
No.
I'm like, don't restrict oneself to just tripod or just handheld.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about any kind of film technique.
Yeah.
I think Patty Jenkins said that, like, in an interview at some point. She's like, I'll use any trick. Like, whatever works. I'll use zooms, I'll use push-ins, I'll use wide shots, I'll set up and... that's kind of how I feel. Like,
yeah.
If handheld works better, I'll use handheld. If a, longer lens works better, we'll use that. It's kind of like, you can't limit yourself to like, oh, no. My movies are only in black and white.
Yeah.
I don't go for that color stuff. You can't do that? Because, like, look, the colors are...
crucial. They're a character in this movie.
Yeah. And vice versa. You like, even if we're like everything is gelled in our movies, but like this is not gelled. No. If we really wanted to do the extra work, we would put gels in all those lights and we set that up. But it's like, one, that's a lot of work, but two, it looks awesome. Like when you're in that gelled world for so long, to get back into like that natural yellow street light.
Yeah,
that has an effect. So I would say, as if you're a filmmaker, never say never.
Yeah.
That's what I'd say, because there's a lot that you wouldn't...
I love this shot of Travis
this
walking.
Is great.
Like, that's one of my favorite things.
No, it's awesome. Oh my gosh. I realized...
What?
We're not even on the 1-year anniversary of Oh Brother.
Oh, wow.
Oh Brother, House... October, Video Carnage. 4 movies in less than a year.
Good for us.
Yeah. Thank you, Joel Haver, for inspiring all of this.
It's all your fault.
Yeah.
This is kind of beautiful because my car kind of starts janky sometimes. So it's like, this is not quite this extreme, but...
Yeah. Well, we set it up earlier.
Exactly.
So I think it works.
Again, same here. We're just passing that light over
This time the camera's on a tripod. You're moving the light, and I added a handheld shake.
The handheld shake really helps it.
Yeah. Because this would not look good if it wasn't... Because I think before in the prior shot, you were moving the car.
And this one, actually, I have a light behind you guys, too.
Yes.
Which I didn't have
An
for
accent
Maze.
light. Yeah.
Just to give some definition.
Yeah. Here we have the Lord remix. Or the Royals remix.
The remix is a great pick.
Yeah.
Like, it adds an extra level.
Of like, bam.
Yeah.
Yeah. There we go. That's Video Carnage.
What a time.
Yeah. My last little tip I'll say is, they say don't use the same song more than once. Screw that. If Wong Kar-wai can do it, you can do it too. So we hear the Royals like 3 different times in the movie.
Yeah.
And this time it's a remix.
Yep.
So use music. Any closing thoughts you have on this movie?
I mean, this was a great...
we'll do a wrap-up video later. But...
Yeah. I mean, I'm happy with how this movie came out as a whole. It's just, it was a great time. I mean, I know it was super stressful. I mean, honestly, it was super stressful. But coming out of that, like looking back on it, I'm like, I'm glad this movie exists. I'm glad it's done.
Yeah.
And I'm glad all these little things that we kind of found throughout it, like made it better and just made it how it is.
Wow.
It's a great time.
Yeah. Well, thank you everyone for watching. We're just wrapping up on the credits here. But yeah, stay tuned for more feature films in the coming year. Stay tuned for more behind the scenes on Video Carnage. And we'll see you on the next video.
Yeah, see you guys.
I'll let this play out.
Might as well.
Yeah.
That looks pretty dope.
That looks great on VHS. Oh my gosh.